Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to episode 6 of the official South Florida Real Estate Podcast. I'm your host, Christopher Molina, president of mortgage sales and senior loan advisor with One Stop Mortgage. Going on my 7th year in the business, got into the business when I was 18, 19 years old, went from no hair because I couldn't afford a haircut, homeless in Miami, working in a call center, to working for Cross Country Mortgage, then moved to One Stop in November of this year, where I became president of mortgage sales. And here I am today as a top producing loan officer. So just as a reminder, you need anything, give me a call, 561-801-0260. Best rates in the market, best jumbo rates in America, same day pre-approvals, average clear to close, 6 to 13 days. But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I have a genuine treat for you today. It is a huge honor to welcome Michael Ivancevic with Illustrated Properties. In the past 2 years, he's done over $100 million, all right? His brokerage, Illustrated Properties, Jupiter East, he's the managing broker, including his volume. They've done over $180 million in the past 2 years. He's a humble guy. He's so down to earth. He's funny. He's knowledgeable. He's a Palm Beach County local. Without further ado, Michael Ivancevic, welcome to the show.
Thanks, brother. I appreciate it. And I always love your intro of been in the business for 7 years and you started at 18.
Yep.
And I kind of freak out because you've accomplished so much by the time you're 25. I'm not even sure where I was when I was 25.
Oh, man. I made so many mistakes before I was 18. I was definitely a knucklehead. But I really appreciate you saying that, and the best is yet to come.
Absolutely.
So one thing about you is that you're such a great father, and you actually mentioned that being a father is your superpower. Can you unpack that for me?
Yeah. I remember the moment my first daughter was born. I was in the real estate business. And it just hit me. The father superpower just overcame me, and it really just was the driving force to my business. Just never looked back, and it was never about how much business I can do for myself. It was how much business can I do to provide for my family at that point.
Yes.
And it was really just an unbelievable moment and changed my life forever.
So is that what drives you?
Absolutely. Every morning, get the kids up, my little morning routine, get the kids up, take them to the bus stop, and from there straight to work and just grinding hard for them.
I think that's the biggest sign of an honorable man, because I was raised without a father. And I remember from a young age distinctly seeing what my mom went through and saying to myself, I will never let my future wife or my future children have to go through that. And honestly, if I didn't go through that, I would not be the man I am today.
Yeah.
So I really have a lot of respect for you in regard to that. Now, you're also known as the River King, and I think that definitely helps with luxury. What does that mean?
I love the riverfront, the waterfront in Jupiter, Tequest area. It's always been a goal of mine. I'm opened my office strategically in a spot that there's water in every different direction, and that's always been my goal, was to dominate that market, and I do well in it.
Yep.
I do really well in it, and it's always that's a tough market to get into. It's a tough market to maintain.
Definitely.
The heavy hitters in that crowd they're no slouches. They're my friends.
Yeah. And
we need those friends to get the business done, but it's tough competition.
What's your average price point?
Average price point up on the river it's going to be like 5 to 8 million is almost like average, and I actually started doing this market update, and it's really focused on that, and it's 8.5 million is up there.
Love that. Now, what do these people typically do for work?
Tons of private equity guys.
Yeah.
We did VP of medical sales, VP of pharmaceutical. One guy's telecommunications.
Okay. Wow.
But there are a lot of just specific traits, and they don't really fall too far out of that. Presidents and vice presidents of large corporations and private equity firms.
So how do you develop relationships with these people?
That's a great question. I mean, you really just kind of have to be one of them, right? You got to be where they're at. I had a real estate coach once.
Okay.
So I was like, hey man, I want to break into this market. And he's like, you just got to want it. I hated that answer.
Yeah.
And that is the answer.
Wow.
You just got to want it. And it was, you got to be where they're at. You got to hang out where they're at. You got to be one of them. And you really got to just be part of that community.
You have to think like they think.
You got to think like they think.
That's amazing.
Absolutely.
And how much does work ethic come into the mix?
I think it's everything. So I mean, you'll find me at the office 7:30, probably religiously. We're there at 5. I'm cutting out at 5. I'm trying to do family stuff. And I'm always trying to be there for the kids in the evening because you only have a few hours. But yeah, there's no rolling in at 9:30, 10. Yep. You know, you don't find me at the 10 o'clock workout class.
Yep.
You know, if I want to go to the workout class, it's the 5:30 class.
Love
you
that.
know, I mean, it's, you know, Elon Musk always says, I'm not smarter than you. I just work more hours than you.
Yes.
Right. So the average person works in real estate, if you're lucky, 40 hours. Most of them are working 30. Yep. I'm working 75, 80.
Yeah.
So I just outwork everyone with work ethic.
I've heard that from a top producer before, that if you really want to be a top producer, you cannot start working after 7:30 a.m. You have to do 7:30 or before, or you're just not going to make it to that level.
No, you're not going to make it that level. And I mean, really, it's 7:30 to 5. Then it picks back up around 9 till like 11.
Yeah.
Right. We're doing stuff in the evenings, trying to get stuff going for the next morning. But yeah, I always say, if you want to know where the top producer is, go to the 5:30 workout classes.
Love that. I love that. It's so true. I'm reading Big Money Energy right now by Ryan Serhant.
Yeah.
Shout out to Ryan Serhant, by the way. That is such an incredible book. And he has all these YouTube videos, a day in his life, you know, waking up at 4:30, getting to the gym. And that's what I started doing recently, waking up at 4:30. And for example, this morning I had a breakfast meeting at 7:30. I got so much done before that breakfast meeting. It was like half a day's worth of work.
Yep.
By the way, got you this book, Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. He was the #1 hostage negotiator in the world for the FBI. So can't wait for you to dig into that. Now, you're also known as a negotiating expert. Okay.
Yeah.
How important is negotiating, especially with high net worth clients?
It's very important. Most of these all of the high net worth clients, it's not their first rodeo. They've negotiated. Yeah. They're negotiating for a living just like I am.
They're negotiating experts.
They're just as much experts as I am.
Yep.
So negotiating with someone like that, I mean, to me, it's all mental. Yeah. And I love this Never Split the Difference, because when you actually talk to a lot of people in real estate, they always say never split the difference. And I agree with this 100%. It's actually why I picked this book. He gave me 2 options.
Yeah.
And I'd just, dive in deeper on it. But if you split the difference, I feel like it's a loss.
Yes.
It's the easy way out.
Definitely.
And then so many agents like, let's split the difference. And I'm like, that's such a loss.
And when you think about it, when these guys, these titans of industry, these vice presidents and presidents, they're hiring you to be their chief negotiator for the biggest transaction in their life.
Yeah.
So you better have your negotiating hat on.
Absolutely.
What are some negotiating tactics that would be helpful for the aspiring realtors out there?
I think you just got to stay strong. You can't show your weaknesses. Okay. Again, to me, it's all mental. Like, I actually called a lady yesterday, $7 million home.
Yep.
And I just had a conversation with her, and I found out so many weak points.
Yeah. And
she was like, well, I don't know what to tell you. And I'm like, we're good. You don't even know what's coming around the corner, and I personally think the house is worth 5.5. So she, I found so many weak points, just it was a 15-minute conversation. And when it was just a pre-negotiation, and she didn't even know we were negotiating.
Yeah.
And they start telling you these things. Yeah. It's just fuel for the fire, and we'll find out what happens tomorrow with that one. Oh man. I think I'm going to win though.
I think you're going to win. You got this. That's why it's such a captivating book, because it's counterintuitive. The best negotiators are not always the hard charging stiffies, right?
Well, if you charge hard and you're trying to smash people, everyone just like, oh my God, get away. Yeah. But if you come in, smooth talk, be nice, be their friend, they're going to tell you some stuff. And then, I'm always nice, 90% of the time, nice all the way through. Nobody wants to give a jerk a discount.
Correct.
But if you're nice and everything's working well, they're willing to work with you. Yeah,
and part of negotiating is information gathering.
Absolutely.
And no one's going to give information to an asshole.
No. No, they just clam up and they get scared and like, oh my God, get away. And
Exactly.
it just doesn't work.
Exactly.
So I try to use a little bit of a different tactic. You know, I've learned that throughout the years, and when you try to go smash people, you just get shot down. It doesn't work.
Love that. Love that. What's one book that you've read that's changed your life?
Think and Grow Rich.
Yes.
Yeah.
The classic.
Yeah.
Love that.
Absolutely.
What'd you learn from that book?
Oh man, I read it a while ago.
Yeah.
Catching me on the spot on that one.
Yeah, Napoleon Hill.
Right.
Love that.
Yeah.
Well, it's all about mindset, right? And what's really interesting about Think and Grow Rich is that he literally interviewed the titans of industry, the Carnegies, right? He interviewed these guys and spent time with them. And so he was really the first person in the entire self-development space, I would say, that really peeled back the layers of the onion behind the real titans of industry.
Yeah.
And deciphered what's fact, what should you do to actually succeed, and what's fiction.
Yeah. Another really basic book that I think everyone should read, I read this in my younger 20s, was Who Moved My Cheese?
Yes.
Right? And I feel like more so now than ever, you have to read that book and follow that book, because the world is changing so fast right now.
Yes.
That you're constantly moving around, doing different things, reinventing yourself.
Yeah.
And that's, I remember reading that book, and I remember working for a guy through my teenage years, and he had redeveloped his business like 3 different times. And I was like, man, that's kind of like what this guy did, and he made it happen.
Yeah.
Right. And just think about the 13 years of real estate I've been in. We went from foreclosures, short sales, to an appreciating market. Everything I was doing was with investors, buying multifamily and single family. It wasn't like glamorous luxury.
Yeah.
Right. But now luxury is hot.
Yeah.
We've always wanted to get into luxury and sell big properties. But if you're sitting around waiting for the foreclosures and short sales, because that's what you're good at, you're done. You're stuck in the water. Like, that's not even where the market's at. And I have real estate friends like that. And
I know a lot of them, actually.
They're salivating, trying to wait for this market to happen. And guess what? It's not going to happen.
They're praying for a foreclosure crisis that's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen. And I feel bad for them. And they didn't move their cheese.
Genuinely. You hear that, realtors? Read Who Moved My Cheese.
Right.
All right. And I think it's also so important for realtors that want to get into the luxury game.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to just pop in the luxury game overnight.
No, you don't pop into it overnight. I mean, the data's out there on you. It's all out there on the internet. Everybody knows who you are.
Yep.
You got to work for it. You got to earn it. And if you think you're just going to pop in and be this, luxury dude selling $20 million homes, good luck.
So how did you start your real estate career, and how did you get into the luxury space?
So I started in 2010. Like I said, it was foreclosures. It was $100,000 houses. It was $250,000. I mean, just whatever was out there. And I had a Rolodex of investors. Luckily, I was born and raised in this town, had a lot of people. They knew that I was hungry. They knew my work ethic, and they trusted me.
Yeah.
Right. And my father's background in real estate helped a little bit. I think that trust in him led over to trust in me.
Yeah.
And it really just went from there. And as my investors made a lot of money, they started buying nicer things, and then you started getting those credentials under your belt, and was able to get a really good client, building spec homes on the water, multi-million-dollar stuff on the water, and it really just kind of flourished from there.
Now tell me about spec homes, because that space has always really fascinated me.
Spec homes, I love them. I think they're awesome. It's probably, I always laugh because every realtor wants to sell these sexy waterfront spec homes.
Yeah.
But let me tell you, it's like the hardest sale in the world.
Yeah.
Right. So we're identifying a property. We're coming up with a floor plan. We're, doing things, making sure it works, going through the construction process. Of course, that spec home builder wants me to sell a house that's half complete, which is difficult.
Yep.
Right. Then we go to closing day 6 months later, maybe a year later. And then there's customer service at the end. Right. Yeah. I mean, I'm doing full service with these spec house. We're finding the properties, we're building them, selling them, and that person that lives there might call me, and I might need to go there and do, some of the most ridiculous things. I had to meet an appliance person to fix something. I got to long story short, appliance person had been there 3 times, wasn't getting fixed. I had to go there, and I had to be, Mr. Big Bad, real estate / developer. Let's fix this. And we got it done. But it's, that's a year and a half later, just a year after the sale. But I mean, I means I worked with that guy for a year and a half.
Yeah.
That's a long time.
It's a very long sales cycle.
Right. I mean, and it might not end from there. Right.
True.
Which I like it because I'm doing a good job for him. Right. He's a VP of a private equity firm.
Yeah.
I bet he's got clients for me.
Definitely.
Right.
Definitely.
So, and that's why I always go above and beyond. It's always a referral.
Now, how do you really build trust in the luxury space when these are some of the most untrusting people?
You just got to know your stuff. You got to know your stats. The consumer knows when you're full of it.
Yep.
And if you can't study your market, what are you really doing in this business? Exactly. Right? And if you don't know it, and if you're not rolling off the tip of your tongue, and it goes beyond the stats, right? You got to have that network of friends we talked about. They got to, you guys got to work together. You got to know about the off-market stuff. You got to know what happened with that sale. You got to know why it fell apart, or why it closed and whatnot. And when you're in the know, then you have the special sauce.
Yes.
And that's what they want. They want the in the know guy, because they can read the internet. They want the guy that know what's the background and everything.
They want the guy that knows more than just what's on the internet.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So you really have to have all the connections in town in your back pocket. You have to listen carefully, take notes.
Yeah. I mean, I'm networking with other realtors every day. Every day. Something goes under contract, I'll just call them, hey, man, congrats. What happened there? Tell me about it. Yeah. And they tell you about it.
Yeah.
Right? So when your client who's looking at another house down the road, you know what happened. And you can tell them, hey, that went for this. It's going to close cash this day and for this price. And it makes you look like, well, you are the information.
Definitely.
So if you're not keeping up with the realtors, and the realtors got to answer your phone call, and they got to want to talk to you, and they got to want to tell you the information.
Very true.
Doesn't always happen.
Very true.
Yeah.
That's why the compound effect is so powerful.
Yeah. And I also think that it helps what brand you're working for, right? So I'm with Illustrated. Yep. Illustrated has a monster presence on the river. Yep. We're all helping each other. Yeah. Right. I might call an agent from Keller Williams who they don't want to tell me anything. Okay. Right. Yeah. Not that they have a strong presence, but Yeah. Yeah. There's always one in there.
Makes a lot of sense. Now, how do you go about developing these relationships with builders?
So I'm loyal to the builder that I have. Yep. That was something that we agreed upon. I'm loyal to him. He's loyal to me. Okay. So I try not to venture outside the box. Now, if there's something that's outside the area and outside his box, then I could probably do that. But I try to remain loyal to him, and he's a phenomenal client. I mean, just to give you, we have $65 million coming down the pipe in sales over the next year and a half. Wow. Right. I'm loyal to him.
65 million.
65 million. Right. I'm buying him lunch.
I love that. Wow. Yeah. So many golden nuggets right there. Yeah. Now, when it comes to marketing, what's the secret sauce behind your marketing?
Consistency and originality. Yeah. So I obviously watch everyone, and I'll watch people from all over the country. Yeah. I follow specific realtors, maybe about 10. So I think there's 10 that do it really, really well. Okay. One guy that I love that I think flies under the radar is Tim Smith.
Shout out to Tim Smith.
Yeah, he's out in Orange County. Okay. That guy's a marketing genius. He goes above and beyond. He's doing amazing things. He's got a production company of his own. I met him at a Tom Ferry concert, a conference. They're like concerts.
Yeah, we get to sing over there.
Yeah. Man, years ago, 7-8 years ago. Yeah. And he actually challenged like 5,000 people. He had a book.
Really?
And he goes, I'll show you my book because I know no one's going to do it. Yeah. Well, I did it, and I mailed him a copy.
I love that.
So, part of my marketing was to go above and beyond like him, right? So I created this book and went out to a bunch of my sphere and clients, and it was super impressive. And that, elevated my marketing, and people elevated the trust and the commitment that I had to the business just with the marketing piece. It was like 58 pages. It took.
What was it about?
Me and real estate.
Really?
Yeah. It was really almost like a listing presentation.
That's genius.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a really good piece. I've dumbed it down a little bit to about 20 pages.
Okay.
We're going to redo another one. We're going to be on our third one. We do about every year and a half. We took a little hiatus with COVID, but we're going to do another one here. We'll probably pick it back up a little bit in size and keep moving. It's always a revolving piece. And I think marketing changes.
Yeah.
Right? 7 years ago, we weren't doing podcasts. I wasn't.
Yeah.
Here we are.
We weren't even really doing videos.
We're doing video. I've always been big on video, and I'm going to double down on video from here on out.
And I see you've been doing a lot more videos, and I love your social media presence. By the way, what's your Instagram handle?
Mike Ivancevic.
Mike Ivancevic.
Mike _Ivancevic.
Very simple. I see you've also been doing videos with Studio 910 West Palm Beach.
Yeah.
Shout out to Claudio.
Claudio's the man. I love him. And so we was doing videos with Adam Dooms, with Studio 910 with Claudio. But little different styles.
Okay.
But I've always been really big on wanting to do video and more video.
Yeah.
So this year I'm pushing myself to do more. I'm not a on-camera type of guy, and Claudio's good at pushing me to be more of an on-camera guy.
Well, you have a great presence about you.
I appreciate that.
It's if it wasn't magnetic, you wouldn't have the clients that you have.
Right.
And you have so much knowledge in your head that sometimes, as us professionals, the number one obstacle that we have getting in the way of us doing more videos is sometimes we just forget that we know so darn much.
Right. Yeah. To us, it's natural, right?
Yeah.
To everyone else, we forget that it's not. You know, we just kind of, you know, you become such a professional and you're such a mastermind of your field, you forget that everyone else doesn't understand it.
Yeah. We forget that so many people are actually searching for what we think is just common knowledge.
Right.
Lovely.
Absolutely.
Now, we had lunch over a year ago, well over a year ago, and it was very interesting because when I asked you about, hey, you know, like what's your take on economics, and you know, you literally just said, hey, listen, I have a very common sense approach. Can you unpack and kind of tell that story?
Yeah. So it's pretty funny. We were at Lenore's in Alton.
Yep.
And we were talking about the economy and where's the real estate market going. And I'm by nature, a very conservative guy. I don't go crazy with spending and different things. And I kind of take a common sense approach of what's going on around my neighborhood.
Yeah.
Right. And I made a comment. I was like, man, I've seen more McLarens and Lamborghinis drive through Alton today.
Yep.
Right. And that's, to me, I started getting nervous when literally, if you walk down my street on Alton, it's a car show.
Yeah.
Right. And I get nervous, right? Alton's a pretty average neighborhood.
Yeah.
So, and I get nervous when I see stuff like that.
And it's very interesting because what we were talking about then is, you know, what are the fundamentals? And real estate was a very low inventory environment as it is today. We were literally talking about how the CFPB was going to prevent a massive foreclosure crisis.
Yep.
As it did, contrary to what a lot of other realtors believed, and that historically, when the Fed raises the federal funds rate aggressively, the S&P 500 takes a big dip,
Yeah.
but real estate remains solid.
Right.
And that's exactly what happened.
Yeah. And I think I'm pretty bullish on that. But when I get nervous when I see all these guys driving around Lamborghinis and Ferraris living in, you know, most of those people paid $1.5 million for their house, right?
Yeah.
And they pull a $500,000 car out, I start getting a little nervous. How did they buy that? Why did they buy that? A lot of these guys are buying on margin and leverage and different things like that. So I remember at that lunch we were talking about that, and we'll maybe see some effect from that. Yeah. Right? Maybe we won't see so many McLarens and different things. And now we're starting to see the car industry soften on that.
Yeah, subprime car repos are spiking dramatically.
Big time.
And that's the canary in the coal mine.
Correct. But they're probably saving grace is going to be their real estate. I'm seeing buyers that didn't buy last year. I have particular, like two of them right now. They were buyers at $2 to $3 million last year. Yeah. They're at 4 to 6 this year. They were afraid to buy last year. Yeah. They're still a little afraid to buy this year, but they've doubled their budget. Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
That's really crazy.
Yeah. They're all cash guys and you know, but they were telling me how crazy this market is and it's going to implode. I told them that they were crazy and it's not. Yeah. And here we are a year later and they're spending double.
Yes. That's
and they're okay with it. I think the mentality of the consumer is the real estate is just a lot more expensive than it was. And it's not going to change.
It's not going to change. Everyone thinks it is. And then it's very easy to forget that in the 70s and the 80s, Everyone thought real estate was very expensive back then.
Right. Right. Look where we are.
Yeah, it's human nature.
Right.
Now, you also, over a year ago, I don't know if you recall, but I recall distinctly, you were telling me a story about some clients from California and what their opinion of Florida real estate was.
Oh, they were like kids in a candy shop.
Yep.
They're like, you guys don't even know what you have. This is the cheapest stuff I've ever seen. And they were just gobbling everything up. I mean, California, I think, went pretty hard on our real estate.
Yeah.
A lot of those guys were flipping and making money. And they had a great forecast on it. And I think they also had a different forecast on it because they had moved from California.
Yeah.
And every time I hang out with them, they just keep telling me the same thing. More is coming.
More is coming.
Like, hold on, Mike, more is coming.
Yep.
It's like, yeah, how many more waves can we get? And I've got friends out there that literally their accountants are telling them to get out of California. They're like, you got to move.
Their California accountants are telling them, get out of California.
Get out of California.
Not surprised.
Go to Utah, Nevada, Florida, Texas. Get out of California.
Yeah.
It's crushing you.
Absolutely.
And we've seen it. I mean, we've had so I'm a fisherman, right?
Yep.
Anthony Shea, who's a well-known billionaire, Loan Depot guy, right?
Yep.
You know who he is?
Yep.
He up and left.
Yeah.
And do you know how much money he spent in Florida real estate?
How much?
About $100 million.
$100 million.
So think about that. This guy left because of taxes and bought $100 million worth of real estate in South Florida.
Oh my goodness.
Absolutely mind-boggling. He bought here in North Palm for $10 million. That was his cheapest place.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Now, to compound that, what else do you think makes Florida real estate and also maybe just the state of Florida unique?
I mean, I think politically, it's just by far the most advanced state, and we're running on budget.
Yep.
We're free.
Yeah, we're
right.
free.
I mean, our kids are free.
We have a budget surplus.
School's good.
Yep.
It's a wonderful place to be. Besides taxes.
Yeah. 50th year in a row of decreasing crime rates.
Right. And remember, they're coming from an area where our real estate's cheap.
Yeah.
So we look attractive. They're saving on taxes. They're getting a beautiful house on the water.
Yep.
Their kids are not, I mean, with the stories I hear with California schools, private schools and different things, I mean, it makes my head spin.
It's awful.
Yeah.
It's like communism.
Yeah.
And totally my mom escaped communism, so I can actually say that.
Right. And that's where I think Florida just shines because so many places are escaping the brink of communism.
Yes.
It's kind of wild.
And censorship.
Right.
And literally violations of our Constitution.
Yeah.
Right in front of our eyes.
We can go politically on this, but I try not to. It's mind-boggling.
It is mind-boggling, and we definitely could go political. I think the last thing I'll say about that is what saddens me is a lot of Americans forget how easily it can all turn. And if you just look at Venezuela, which was one of the best countries in the world in the 80s.
One of the richest countries in the world. What number was it? It was like top 10, I think.
It was top 10 and one of the most well-educated countries in the world.
Churn quick.
So quick.
Yep.
Moving back to real estate.
Yes.
Oh, man, you're just we could talk about anything. Let's talk about how do you build a team? How do you build the right culture? Because you've built quite an incredible enterprise yourself.
Yeah, so I'm super selective. I mean, I run an office for Illustrated, and they know that, it's got to be a very, very unique person who's ready to work. We got to be like-minded.
Yep.
And, my office is the extension of my home.
Yeah.
So I have to like you, right? If you're gonna call me on my phone and you're gonna get me my real estate advice, you got to be a good person.
Yeah.
So I'm very, very selective. We have about 18 people in the office. We maybe will hire one.
Wow.
And I'm just, I'm very, very selective. And again, I love the mentorship side of my business, but I also don't want any more than what I have, right? Because I have a business where I'm working hard and I only have so much time, and we try to keep it, a little sanity going.
Yeah. What I love about your business model is that you follow the Steve Jobs principle of hire A players only.
Yeah. Only A players. Yeah. I mean, And I'll get that in an interview. If I sense that you're not an A player, if there's some desperation, we're going to send you down the street.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
And the results show.
Yeah. Appreciate it.
You got it. Now, what do you look for in an A player?
It's more of like their confidence, maybe their swagger, what they've done in the past. If they were an A player in the past and they're looking to change industries because they have a passion for real estate or they think they have a passion for real estate, then I like that. I have a lady that works for me. She retired from sales for Comcast, I think it was. Actually, it's like Channel 5. She was a top producing person for them. She was like the number one person for like 15 years. And she was older. She was retired. I mean, not someone that we're going to dinner and going to happy hours with, but I wanted her. Yeah. I was like, yeah, you got to work for me. I knew she had it, and she worked harder than most other agents I have. And she's a pleasure to deal with. I knew she was going to be good. And she told me, she's like, hey, this is more of a retirement business, but I have to make a certain amount of money a year. I'm like, yeah, you're going to do it. No problem.
And she probably did.
Oh yeah, she did. She did. And now she's going a little bit more into retirement, but it's one of my favorite agents I've ever worked with. And I bet looking at it, if you didn't really look into her sales background, I bet there were brokers out there that passed on it.
I bet. Yeah. That's really interesting. It's kind of like being a combine scout in the NFL.
Right.
You have to look for certain attributes that maybe other coaches aren't looking for.
Right. And I knew she had sales in her. It was natural.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's absolutely incredible. Now, when it comes to luxury, how do you particularly stand out in such a competitive field?
You just can't be cheap. Okay. You got, we go back to that marketing, right? Yeah. And you got to go above and beyond. And if your competition is doing something, you got to do it better. You got to do it bigger, and you got to do more of it. Yeah. And I think at this point, I'm actually switching up my marketing a little bit, getting away from the traditional stuff and going more into a different field, more YouTube and video and different stuff like that. I feel like, if you look at some of the heavy hitters in town or across the country, they've gone more towards the video and video production and really have doubled down on that.
Yeah. Interesting. How do you scale video?
I think you just got to do more of it.
Yeah. More quality video.
More quality. And I'm big on, if it's not going to be quality, we're throwing it in the trash. We're not even doing it. Like if we do something and I don't like it, it does not get released. Like why would you put junk out there?
Interesting.
It's just a total reflection of you and your business.
Yeah.
So if you're willing to put junk, like, is your business junk?
Right? You're right. And honestly, I think a lot of realtors would agree with you on that. But what sets you apart from them, because that might be something that holds other realtors back, is perfection. But what sets you apart from them is you're like, hey, no, it doesn't just have to be perfect. We have to add fuel to the fire. We got to post consistently more than other people as well.
Right. Absolutely. And I don't put a budget on things.
Yeah.
We obviously have, at some form, everyone's got a budget, but I'll look at a house and I'll like, this is what I want to do. And I don't know if I really care what it cost. Right. And what I've noticed about quality marketing is you might be overspending on that house, but if you get 3 or 4 more referrals out of it and you make X amount on top of it, it was chump change.
Totally. And that has to be the mindset going into it, that you are going to get 2 or 3 or more referrals from that. I
did a video. It was a very expensive video, even still to this day, probably about, it was 7 years ago.
Wow.
I hired Lifestyle Productions out of Miami. Really? Nobody in town was hiring them. They were just only in Miami. The big agents down there were using them. I hired them. And it was at the time, it was like a $2.5 million home. So it was a big listing for me. And 7 years ago, $2.5 million was a stud.
Totally.
So I do this video. It's over the top. I got 7 listings out of it.
No way.
Now, all the listings were like 500 to 800, but we got 7 of them. We sold them all.
Yeah.
I didn't even sell the $2.5 million house that year, but I sold all those other houses. And it made, the money that I paid Lifestyle Productions, like, I just kind of laughed about it. I was like, all right, whatever.
Totally. And that's the thing that a lot of people don't realize in this business is 7 years ago, that $2 million house is probably or 8 million today.
Right.
Those $500,000 houses are 1.5.
Correct.
And those are going to be lifetime customers.
Absolutely. So we got a ton of listings out of it. We sold those houses. I've sold those clients other houses. I mean, it's just a total snowball effect. But I knew the video worked because they all called me and they said, hey, am I going to get a video like that? I'm like, well, you're going to get a video, but it might not be quite the Lifestyle Production. But I went and got a good video for them, right? We didn't go a cheesy video, but we couldn't spend, $3,000-$4,000 for a $500,000 home. But we made it work. They were all super happy. And, they made money, I made money, and it was a great thing.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Let's talk about communication.
Sure.
How important is communication?
It's everything. I mean, nothing worse than having a client, right? So you get a listing and then you ghost them, right? And that happens. Agents get nervous. They don't want to say bad news. My rule of thumb is let's face bad news from the get-go.
Yeah.
As you get it. It's easier and don't sugarcoat it.
Yeah.
We had something bad. Hey, your house didn't appraise. Hey, Mr. Buyer's canceling. Like, you face it head on, right? Or if you have to tell the other agent something, don't sugarcoat it. Sugarcoating just makes it explode at the end.
Everybody listening in real estate should write that down, all right? Face bad news from the get-go. Don't sugarcoat, because guess what? If you're actually putting yourself in the shoes of your clients, that's what these guys who are presidents of their company are doing anyways.
Correct.
That's what they expect.
Right. That's what they expect out of their employees, right? They want just the blunt answer. They want to know what's going on. And I've always been, and I learned that in the business because, the first couple of years you're nervous. You don't want to let someone down or disappoint them. But I noticed that clients were a lot more accepting when you just told them straight up immediately. You didn't let a day go by. They were like, oh, that happened yesterday? What the heck? You didn't call me? Then you look unprofessional. Something happens that moment. You get a bad appraisal. Let's use appraisal for the subject.
Yeah.
Just call them and tell them. Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Let's come up with a game plan. Let's figure this out. Call the other agent immediately. Hey, we had a problem. What are we going to do about this? This is how I think we should handle it.
Yeah.
And just get to it. Just get to it.
That is brilliant advice because honestly, and this is something I learned, my first year in the business, and by the grace of God, I learned so many mistakes by reading books and hearing the mistakes that other people made. Mm-hmm. That way I could at least make them quickly in my first year or two in the business. And I learned if it's bad news, it's only going to be bad news in the eyes of the client if you don't tell them right away.
Correct. Then they're going to be more upset.
Exactly.
Then it's bad news and they're upset at you.
Exactly.
Right. And you never want that. And bad news is also another negotiating point.
Yeah.
Right. So that negotiation cap goes back on.
Definitely.
And, you got to figure it out. And sometimes you got to, going back to the negotiation side, you tell them the bad news, you tell them how you're going to handle it. Maybe they like it, maybe they don't, but maybe you just shut up at that point.
Yeah.
We're done. Silence.
Yeah.
Let's let the other side, figure out what they're going to do and, let them implode or not implode or figure it out.
Exactly. And the thing is, throughout a real estate transaction, yes, there's mandatory points of friction where you do have to give bad news at times.
Yeah.
It might not have to do anything with you. Could be inspection, appraisal, things of that nature. But you also really have to compound and take advantage of the positive moments.
Yeah.
Like, hey, the appraisal came back on value, or hey, we're clear to close.
Yep.
Things of that nature.
Absolutely. Yeah. Hey, we're on schedule.
Yes.
And everything's going well.
Absolutely. Or hey, we had XYZ potential people at the open house. What would be an example in your luxury world?
The new construction stuff is really just getting the CEO, making sure people are showing up, getting things done. On a big luxury deal, sometimes I swear they're easier, right? Everyone's got money. Everyone can solve the problems.
They're more professional.
There's a lot of cash.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
The all important cash is king. So we're not worried about appraisals or under appraisals or having enough money to close. Insurance could always be a little tricky. That's a huge problem that we're having in the state of Florida right now.
Yeah.
But we figure it out. And again, with the luxury stuff, You know, if the insurance quote comes in high, they get upset, but they pay the bill.
Yeah.
Right. They move on.
Yeah.
They want the house.
And insurance will go down in about a year and a half from what I've been hearing from insurance professionals.
Yeah. I think they're going to figure it out. They're going to get a grip on it. And, you know, hopefully we can get that under our belts.
So it seems like when it comes to luxury clients, what's extremely important is following up, following through, and really taking care of the small kept promises.
Yeah. So I also have an assistant, right? And a lot of the little stuff, the little paperwork, she's doing, right? It usually comes from me. Yeah. I'm like, her name's Lisa. She's amazing. I'm like, Lisa, send this over. Yeah. Lisa, do this. Lisa, do that. Yep. And she follows up with all these emails, keeps me working on more important things than paperwork. Yeah. But it also, they love it, right? They love her. Her customer service is awesome. She's a sweetheart. Everyone loves talking with her. So she helps out a lot with the communication as well.
So she's kind of front end facing in a way.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, once we go under contract, she's, escrow receipts, escrows in, coordinating all that with everyone. She would send you all the emails. Like she's all the little nitty gritty stuff, customer service. And again, a lot of it's directed for me. Hey, do this email, do that email. But she takes care of it and she has a good smile. Wow. Going from that, I actually, not to mention another Tom Ferry. I was a big Tom Ferry guy 7 years ago.
Nice.
I was at another convention and there was a mom and daughter.
Yeah.
They had been in this business for 25 years and they were studs. And they said, you shouldn't be in this business unless you have an assistant. You don't deserve this business.
Wow.
So at the time I didn't have an assistant. I was like, it was actually probably 8 years ago. And I was like, man, I don't even know if I could afford one.
Yeah.
Now I can't afford not to have one.
It's so true.
I mean, it's if you're in this business and you're going to go full time and you're going to go, all in and you're going to try to do 25 to 40, 50, 60 deals a year. Yeah. You don't have an assistant. You're doing your client a disservice. A disservice. Total disservice.
100%. I hope you guys are picking up on that. We literally just went into time management and staying in green time.
Right.
Not doing the paperwork, right? Delegation. How big of a difference does that make for someone that wants to get to that next level?
It's everything. I mean, if you're sitting around doing $10 hour paperwork and you're not trying to sell or close or meet new people to make $1,000 an hour money, it's everything. I mean, I remember when I was first in this business, it was, you got to make your phone calls, you got to do your emails. And then it was like, okay, let's do paperwork for, all our paperwork emails and all our nonsense for the next 2 hours, maybe lunch, and then back to showings and different things and hopefully a listing appointment. But when you take 20, 30, 40% of your day out to do $10 hour work, I mean, you're shooting yourself in the foot in this business.
So how did you go about hiring your first assistant and how did you determine what needs to be delegated to her?
I had a real estate coach. So we did this together, right? And he gave me a list of questions and someone to look for. And I actually had someone approach me and they're like, I want to be your assistant. Yeah. She was a nice lady, did a good job. And it was also the same time I opened the office. Yeah. So that was like, I bought an office. I'm getting we're doing this. Yeah. Cause I don't want to close the office when I'm running out. Yeah. So I wanted to keep it open and have an assistant there. She kind of is a front admin, kind of catch all.
You actually own the office.
Yeah. I bought the piece of real estate.
That's amazing. I love that.
Yeah. It was, and again, that's how, growing up, my father, he was like, never rent.
Yeah.
Ever. So just buy the real estate. The real estate's paid off. It's, it's great.
That's so
I don't pay rent. So it's, you pay some taxes and insurance and it's pretty simple.
That's so powerful.
Yeah.
That's so powerful. Whereas me, I saw my parents never own real estate and that's what motivated me to buy real estate.
Yeah. So same motivation, different outlook. My dad always bought real estate, said never rent. Let the real estate try to pay for your assets and your, your liabilities and, cars and houses and different things. So I got that from my dad. But going back to hiring, I went through a couple of them.
Yeah.
Everyone that I was talking to was like, you need to hire young and creative. And I don't think young and creative works.
Honestly, my loan partner, Kathy, has 22 years of experience, and I love the balance of extreme experience.
Right.
I agree with you completely.
So I hired the young and creative, and they're gonna bring your marketing to the next level. They didn't bring my marketing to the next level, and they weren't very creative.
Yeah.
And Lisa's background, actually, she was the marketing director for Illustrated.
Yeah.
Right. So I love marketing.
Yeah.
She was the marketing director. So a lot of what we do on our day to day is marketing.
Yeah.
And I have a thing. If you're not doing something, figure out something to do. Right. Yeah. And if you're bored, let's go do some marketing, because that's really something that's quick to pick up on. Exactly. Let's go make some phone calls, emails, catch up with our sphere and different things.
Because every kid out there on their mom's couch thinks they're a social media guru. And colleges don't teach you anything about social media or marketing.
No, they're not teaching about social media marketing. They're not teaching you about buying an office space, or I don't know what they're teaching you. Exactly. I wasn't very successful in college, so.
Exactly. And honestly, a lot of millennials that I meet, even, my generation, the communication skills are just not there.
Right.
So you really have to hire someone in that space that intimately understands clear communication.
Yeah. Yeah. These younger kids, I mean, their communication skill levels are scary.
Yeah.
They're absolutely scary. But I think it's changing. I mean, I'm seeing the millennials, and you're a young guy, and your communication skills are absolutely amazing. But we're seeing some of the millennials communicate a little bit better. I feel like, at least in the real estate world.
I think there's always going to be some people out there that are just old school and cut a little differently.
Correct. And you've got a lot of old school in you. Which is great.
Thank you.
I mean, I think, honestly, you have to.
Yeah.
You have to have some of that old school work. Let's get down to it. And
I pride myself on that old school mentality.
Yeah, so do I. So I always say, I'm pretty old school, and listen, I write checks. I got a checkbook. People are like, "Are you kidding me?" And I'm like, "Yeah."
That's awesome.
You're going to get a check from me.
That's so awesome.
I like to receive a check too.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
And it's just, I get that from my old man. I think a little old school still in there.
Well, I read that in The Art of the Deal. Donald Trump learned from his dad that his dad would write the checks to all their employees.
Yeah.
And he learned, watch every single penny, no matter how big the project is.
Absolutely. I think when you actually write the check and you hand it over, you kind of get a sense of what you actually just paid for, right? Right. If it's just like auto pay. I mean, all my bills are auto pay, but if you're paying a vendor for do a job and you're not actually physically going through that process, I don't think you appreciate what you spent.
Yeah, I agree completely. And I think there's more mutual appreciation from the person receiving the check. Yeah. You can make eye contact with them as well.
Absolutely.
It goes a long way.
Yeah. Do a job for me. Just come by the office.
Yeah.
Have a check.
Exactly. That's awesome.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Being old school is honestly one of the most important things that's helped me in my career, especially because something I experienced when I first got into the business was ageism. Because, I baby face, maybe I still do, but I had it even more, trust me, when I was 18, 19. Obviously when you're wet behind the ears at that time and you just have to prove yourself when the average age of a loan officer is 50 years old.
Right.
Being old school, for the youngins listening out there, that will help you more than anything.
Oh, absolutely.
Handwritten thank you cards, calling people, being the best at communicating, gifting, old school tactics, firm handshakes, eye contact. That will set you apart. By the way, shout out to Cherry Larry, our cat, who turned 3 years old today.
Nice.
My fiance Victoria really wanted me to say that. Any questions for me, Mike?
So I always, when we first met, right, and we were going to lunches and talk about gifting. I mean, you guys were dropping off things in my office. I'm like, who are these guys? Right? I'm like, if they send me one more thing, I'm going to feel bad. And then, we went to lunch and we met and I was like, wow, you know what? Great people, loved it. But I had no idea how young you were. And you would never know it. And honestly, your knowledge on the market is far superior and far outweighs your youthism.
Thank you.
Right. So I get super nervous. What is next?
What is coming next?
I mean, I keep joking with you saying that you're going to be the next president of the United States by the time you're 45, but you've got decades of a career in less than a decade that you've already accomplished. So what's next?
Thank you so much. I feel like I haven't accomplished anything yet. But when I first got into the business, even before, when I was studying for my NMLS license, and even when I started dating Victoria, I would write down in the morning and at night 3 times a day, I own the world's largest mortgage bank. I own the world's largest mortgage bank. I own the world's largest mortgage bank.
So you're going to crush Anthony Shea.
And I will die trying.
I think you're going to do it, brother. I'm not even kidding. I think you're going to do it. That dude lives a pretty good, great lifestyle. And I think the world's yours, brother.
Thank you.
At your age, what you've accomplished, it motivates me.
Thank you.
Right? I'm like 42, getting old. You're mid-20s, starting a family, and you've done so much. You're a motivation to me, whether you know it or not.
Well, vice versa. I admire you because you have unbelievable children. You have a happy wife. You go to Costa Rica.
Yeah.
And you know, you're there for business sometimes when you're networking with your friends, but also you just have such a great life.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Well, we work hard at it.
Yeah.
We work really hard at work. We work really, really hard at home. I mean, my hardest job is being a father.
Yeah.
And you don't get second chances on that.
Yeah.
Right? Every day is your only day to teach them right. You can teach them things, but teaching them right is so critical. They're they're a sponge of just what you're putting off.
Yeah.
And you have to just put off positive vibes, good. I tell my girls about saving and buying property. And I remember my dad did that. My dad, I always tell the story, told it a million times. We would drive down Dixie Highway and in his beater car, by the way, listening to AM radio talk show. And it was like, I would get a headache instantly. And I don't get headaches. Yeah. But he would sit there and say, hey, that property over there, it's $300,000. He that guy needs to sell it and expand. And he's looking to buy that property over there. And that one's 800. And they're going to go out of business. So they really got to sell. And he knew everything going down the road. Right. And I was like, why is this guy telling me this? So now I found myself, hey, Lily, hey, Olivia, you got to save, you got to buy a property. It's got to pay for this. It's got to pay for that. And kind of doing the same thing that my dad did. Yeah. Passing on the torch.
That's so powerful. And for the fathers out there listening, what are some tactics that you have for being the hardest worker that you know, and also being the best husband and father that you can be?
So when my first daughter was born, someone told me, make sure you tell your daughter every single day that you love her and she's beautiful. So I tell my daughter every single day, I love her and she's beautiful, probably 10 times a day, but it gives them confidence, right? They got swagger.
It's so powerful.
Oh, it's huge. It's huge. So I think that's probably the most important thing. And then on top of that, they know dad works hard. Yeah. Right. That's the other message I'm showing them. Yeah. Dad's working hard at home. Dad's working hard at the office, on the weekends, and I always try to be present at so like Lily today has a lacrosse game. Yeah. I'm going to be there. Yeah. Right. I remember how important it was. My dad worked hard. My dad worked really hard. But when I had a soccer game, he was there. Wow. I'd look over and I'm like, man, he took out a busy time of his day to be there. Wow. So I'm always there. I'm always there for her, for those things. I know it's important. And that's, you got to have that life balance.
It's so powerful.
Absolutely.
It's really expansion in all areas of life.
Yeah.
As opposed to toning it down in one area. It's toning it up in every area.
I look back when 10 years ago, and literally we're pegging 10s on everything compared to 10 years ago. Yeah. Life, house, kids, work. Yeah. I mean, we just 10X'd it all. And you have to. I mean, it's the biggest responsibility ever.
That's amazing.
And you can't let your clients down.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm competitive by nature. So there's this burning passion in me to 10X it.
Love that.
So and we talked a little bit about competition.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I have competition in the marketplace, not because I'm like cocky, confident. Yeah. It's really my business, right? So what can I do with my business and how far can I take it, right? I can only control what's in my domain. What other agents are doing, that's what they're doing.
Yes.
Right? The only time I'm real competition with them is the listing agreements, right? They got an appointment, I got an appointment. That's the competition. After that moment, those are my teammates.
So true.
Right? I get it, or they got it. They got to bring a buyer, or I got to bring a buyer. Right? Now we're working together. Right? So there's only in my mind in this business, there's only a few times that we're really competition.
That's so true. And I think a lot of realtors and even loan officers, a lot of business people have really forgot about that over the past few years, especially with the negativity in the media. It's easy to, a few years ago, only be worried about COVID and think that the sky is falling. And recently it's, oh my goodness, are the banks collapsing, right?
Right.
Or, what's going on with inflation? But you can't control Powell. You can't control Biden. You can't control inflation. But what you can control is your attitude, your discipline, and your ability to show up every day better than you were yesterday.
Correct. So what are your goals? Where are you at?
My number one goal in life is to eventually be the best father that I could ever be. And I believe that being a great father, just like you already are, to a degree comes down to financial freedom.
Right.
And being able to give your children opportunities. So I want to be able to eventually give my future children opportunities. I want to scale one-stop mortgage across the nation. I want to recruit the best and brightest loan officers out there and give them the platform via events and the 10-week follow-up program to really penetrate their market and scale and really make their own dreams come true.
Do you put time frames on those goals?
Yes, I do. Absolutely. So I have a 5, 10, 15-year goal. In 5 years, I think that we can have 100 loan officers. I think having 100 loan officers in 50 states would be absolutely doable in 5 years.
Yeah, I think so. Absolutely. So I set goals, and I set them uber high.
Yeah.
Right? People look at my goals and are like, good luck, Mike. But if I attain half of my goal, crushing it, totally crushing it, right? So I set goals out there that are, we're talking only 10 or 15 realtors in the whole country do.
Yeah.
I set those numbers.
Yeah.
But if I've reached half of that, I'm kicking everyone's ass.
Totally.
Right? And winning at life.
And that's why you crush it. And that actually is a principle of the 10X rule. Set your goals 10 times higher than you originally did. And if you fall short, you'll be happy.
And I wish I knew that at a younger age. So I've set some life goals, right? So you had 5, 10, and 15. I set some life goals kind of like that, and I'm reaching them.
Yeah.
And I wish I cut them in half.
Wow.
So cut yours in half.
Cut mine in half.
Cut them in half.
Done. I'll do that today.
Right.
Execute fast. I think that's another thing that my generation needs to work on.
Right. There's really no point in waiting. If you got a goal, like just grind at it and keep going for it. And I have literally life goals that I set in my 20s, and I'm achieving them. And I wanted to achieve them I was like, 42, 43, 44, I'm going to do this. And I'm achieving them. And I'm like, man, how dumb was I? I should have been setting those for 35 or 34 and 33. Life lessons you learn.
That's so powerful.
Yeah.
I would also say that one other powerful goal I have is I want to have the reputation of being the loan officer or the mortgage leader that has the deepest, genuine value impact on realtors across the nation.
Yeah.
Because any loan officer can go out there and talk about products, right? Any loan officer can do that. But who can actually help realtors get to the next level and show them what other top producers like you are doing?
Right.
That's what's going to change their life.
Yeah, absolutely right. Absolutely right. For the most part, everyone's got the products, right?
Yeah.
And you should know your products. And that's like the same sales pitch.
Yep.
But what else is there?
Yeah.
So crushing it.
Man, well, listen, Michael Ivancevic, thank you so much for being on the show. He has done over $100 million over the past 2 years in personal production. His office has done over $180 million. We spoke about everything from passion to family to what your superpowers are to the economy, team, culture, marketing, luxury, you name it. It's been an honor to have you on the show, Michael. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, brother. This is awesome.
My pleasure.